It was a quiet summer evening in 1994 when the small town of Willow Creek, nestled deep in the heart of the Midwest, was forever changed. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the tree-lined streets, and the air was thick with the scent of freshly cut grass. For most residents, it was just another peaceful night. But for one family, it would become the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt them and the entire community for decades. The case began with a single phone call. At 9:17 p.m., the Willow Creek Police Department received a frantic report from a woman named Evelyn Harper. Her voice trembled as she explained that her 16-year-old daughter, Jessica, hadn't come home from her summer job at the local diner. Jessica was responsible, always texting if she was running late, and never missed her curfew. Evelyn's worry was palpable, and the dispatcher could hear the fear in her voice as she pleaded for help. Within minutes, officers were dispatched to the Harper residence. They found Evelyn pacing the front porch, clutching her phone, her eyes darting up and down the street as if willing her daughter to appear. Jessica's father, Tom, was already out searching, driving the familiar routes between their home, the diner, and the friends' houses Jessica sometimes visited. But as the hours ticked by, hope began to fade. Jessica's phone went straight to voicemail, and none of her friends had seen her since she left work at 8:30 p.m. The next morning, the search intensified. Volunteers combed the woods and fields surrounding Willow Creek, calling Jessica's name, their voices echoing in the early morning mist. Flyers were posted on every telephone pole, and local news stations picked up the story, broadcasting Jessica's smiling face across the region. The entire town seemed to hold its breath, united in fear and hope. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the trail grew cold. There were no witnesses, no physical evidence, and no clear motive. Jessica had no known enemies, no history of running away, and no reason to disappear. The police interviewed everyone: family, friends, co-workers, even strangers who had passed through the diner that night. But every lead ended in a dead end. The case file grew thicker with each passing year, filled with tips, rumors, and theories. Some believed Jessica had been abducted by a stranger passing through town. Others whispered about a secret boyfriend or a falling out with a friend. But nothing could be proven, and the Harper family was left with only questions and heartbreak. As the years went by, Jessica's disappearance became a ghost story, a cautionary tale told to new generations of Willow Creek residents. Parents warned their children not to walk home alone at night, and the once bustling diner where Jessica worked eventually closed its doors, unable to shake the shadow of tragedy. But for Evelyn and Tom Harper, the pain never faded. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone was a reminder of what they had lost. They kept Jessica's room exactly as she had left it, her favorite books stacked neatly on the nightstand, her high school jacket draped over the chair. They refused to give up hope, clinging to the belief that one day, the truth would come out. In 2004, on the 10th anniversary of Jessica's disappearance, the case was featured on a national true crime television show. The episode brought a surge of new tips, but none led to a breakthrough. The police chief at the time, a grizzled veteran named Frank Delaney, made a public promise: We will not rest until Jessica Harper is found. This case will not be forgotten. But as the years continued to slip by, even the most dedicated investigators began to lose hope. The case was officially classified as cold, and the file was moved to a back shelf in the evidence room, gathering dust alongside other unsolved mysteries. Yet, for some reason, Jessica's case refused to die. Every few years, a new detective would take an interest, poring over the old files, re-interviewing witnesses, and chasing down long-forgotten leads. Each time, the hope of resolution flickered, only to be snuffed out by the stubborn lack of evidence. In 2014, on the 20th anniversary, a candlelight vigil was held in the town square. Hundreds of people gathered, holding photos of Jessica and sharing memories. The event was covered by local media, and for a brief moment, the case was back in the public eye. But as the candles burned down and the crowd dispersed, the mystery remained. What made Jessica's case so haunting was not just the lack of answers, but the sense that the truth was always just out of reach. There were no confessions, no bodies, no closure, just a lingering sense of unease, a feeling that something terrible had happened in their quiet town, and that the person responsible might still be out there. In recent years, advances in forensic technology have breathed new life into old cases across the country. DNA evidence, once considered unreliable, has solved crimes decades after they occurred. Families who had given up hope have seen justice served at last. And so, in 2023, the Willow Creek Police Department announced that they would be re-examining the evidence in Jessica Harper's case, using the latest techniques in DNA analysis and digital forensics for the Harper family. It was a glimmer of hope in the long, dark tunnel. Evelyn, now in her 70s, spoke to reporters with quiet determination. "We've waited 30 years for answers. We just want to know what happened to our daughter. We want to bring her home." As the investigation began anew, the town of Willow Creek found itself once again gripped by the mystery that had defined a generation. Old wounds were reopened, and new questions emerged. Would the truth finally come to light? Or would Jessica's case remain unsolved? A haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide in even the most ordinary places. The renewed investigation brought a sense of urgency and anticipation to Willow Creek. For the first time in years, the police station buzzed with activity. Detectives pored over the old case files, scrutinizing every detail, every statement, every piece of evidence that had once seemed insignificant. The town's new police chief, Angela Ramirez, was determined to approach the case with fresh eyes. She assembled a task force of seasoned investigators and young, tech-savvy officers, blending experience with innovation. One of the first steps was to re-examine the physical evidence collected in 1994. The evidence room, long neglected, held a few precious items: Jessica's work uniform, her backpack, a set of keys, and a single earring found in the parking lot behind the diner. In the past, these items had yielded no useful clues, but with modern DNA testing, even the smallest trace could be the key to unlocking the mystery. The team sent the earring and Jessica's uniform to a state-of-the-art forensic lab. Weeks passed as scientists carefully extracted and analyzed every fiber, every microscopic particle. The results were both promising and frustrating. A partial DNA profile was recovered from the earring, but it didn't match anyone in the national database. It was a tantalizing clue, proof that someone else had been with Jessica that night but without a match. It was just another piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, the task force began re-interviewing witnesses. Some, like Jessica's best friend, Rachel, had moved away and started new lives. Others, like the diner's owner, Mr. Callahan, were still in town. Their memories faded but not forgotten. Rachel described Jessica as the kind of person everyone wanted to be around, funny, smart, always looking out for others. She remembered the last time she saw Jessica, waving goodbye in the parking lot, never imagining it would be the last time. Mr. Callahan recalled a strange customer who had come in that night, a man in his 40s, wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He'd ordered coffee and sat alone at the counter, barely speaking. The police had questioned him back in 1994, but he'd provided an alibi and was never considered a serious suspect. Still, Chief Ramirez made a note to track him down and re-examine his story. As the investigation unfolded, the team also turned to digital forensics. In 1994, cell phones were rare, and social media didn't exist. But Jessica had kept a diary, and her parents had preserved it all these years. The diary was filled with the thoughts and dreams of a teenage girl, crushes, worries about school, hopes for the future. But in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, the entries grew darker. Jessica wrote about feeling watched, about a car that seemed to follow her on her walk home from work. She mentioned a series of hang-up calls late at night, and a sense of unease she couldn't shake. These revelations sent a chill through the task force. Had Jessica been stalked? Was her disappearance the result of a carefully planned abduction? The team began to cross-reference the diary entries with police reports from that summer, looking for patterns. Other reports of suspicious vehicles, strange phone calls, or attempted abductions. A few incidents stood out, but none provided a direct link to Jessica's case. The investigation also brought renewed attention to the Harper family. Reporters camped outside their home, eager for any new development. Evelyn and Tom, now older and more fragile, faced the media with quiet dignity. They spoke about Jessica's kindness, her love of music, her dreams of becoming a teacher. They pleaded for anyone with information to come forward, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. The community, too, was drawn back into the mystery. Old rumors resurfaced, and new theories spread like wildfire on social media. Some believed Jessica had been taken by someone she knew, perhaps a jealous ex-boyfriend or a trusted family friend. Others insisted it was the work of a stranger, a drifter passing through town. A few even speculated about a serial predator, linking Jessica's case to other unsolved disappearances in the region. Chief Ramirez understood the power of public interest. She held a press conference, urging anyone with information to contact the police. "No detail is too small," she said. "After 30 years, we owe it to Jessica and her family to find the truth." The police struck a chord, and the tip line lit up with calls. Most were dead ends, old rumors, mistaken identities, wild speculation. But one call stood out. A woman named Linda, who had worked at the diner in 1994, called to say she remembered something odd from that night. She recalled seeing a blue pickup truck parked behind the diner, its engine idling, long after closing time. She'd always assumed it belonged to a delivery driver, but now, thinking back, she realized she'd never seen that truck before or since. The detail was small, but it was new. The task force dug into vehicle records, searching for blue pickups registered in the area at the time. They found dozens, but one stood out, a truck owned by a man named Gary Mitchell, who had lived in Willow Creek in the early 1990s before moving out of state. Mitchell had a minor criminal record, mostly petty theft and bar fights, but nothing violent. Still, the timing and location were enough to warrant a closer look. Detectives tracked Mitchell to a small town in Nebraska. He was now in his 60s, living alone in a rundown trailer. When questioned about the night Jessica disappeared, Mitchell was evasive, claiming he barely remembered living in Willow Creek. But when pressed about the blue pickup, his answers grew inconsistent. The detectives requested a DNA sample, which Mitchell reluctantly provided. As the investigation entered its 30th year, the story of Jessica Harper's disappearance had become more than just a local tragedy. It was a symbol of the questions that linger when justice is delayed, and a testament to the resilience of those left behind. The case had drawn the attention of amateur sleuths, true crime bloggers, and even a popular podcast, each offering their own theories and dissecting every detail. For the Harper family, this renewed interest was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it kept Jessica's memory alive and brought in new tips. On the other, it meant reliving the pain, again and again, as strangers speculated about their daughter's fate. Chief Ramirez and her team refused to let the case go cold again. They began to look beyond the obvious, questioning old assumptions and re-examining every piece of evidence with a critical eye. One detective, a young officer named Marcus Lee, became obsessed with the timeline of Jessica's last known movements. He mapped out every minute, every possible route she could have taken from the diner to her home. He interviewed former classmates, teachers, and even distant relatives, searching for any detail that might have been overlooked. It was during one of these interviews that a new lead emerged. A former classmate, now living in Chicago, recalled a strange encounter from the summer of 1994. She remembered seeing Jessica at a gas station on the edge of town, talking to a man in a dark sedan. The classmate couldn't remember the man's face, but she was certain it wasn't anyone from their school or neighborhood. The detail was vague, but it was enough to send the task force digging through old surveillance footage from nearby businesses. Miraculously, one grainy tape from a convenience store showed a car matching the description. A dark sedan was out of state plates, pulling into the lot just minutes after Jessica's shift ended. The footage was too blurry to make out the driver's face, but it was a breakthrough. For the first time, investigators had a possible link between Jessica and someone outside the community. The team traced the license plate to a rental agency in a neighboring state. Records showed the car had been rented by a man named Charles Bennett, a traveling salesman who had passed through Willow Creek that summer. Bennett had no criminal record, but his name had never come up in the original investigation. When contacted, Bennett claimed to have no memory of Jessica or the town, insisting he was just passing through on business. Still, The coincidence was hard to ignore. As the task force dug deeper, they discovered that Bennett had rented cars in several small towns across the Midwest during the early 1990s. In at least 2 of those towns, young women had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. The similarities were chilling. Each victim was last seen alone. Each case remained unsolved, and in each instance, Bennett had been in the area at the time. The possibility that Jessica's disappearance was part of a larger pattern sent shockwaves through Willow Creek. The media seized on the story, and the FBI was brought in to assist with the investigation. For the first time, the case was being viewed not just as a local tragedy, but as a potential link in a chain of unsolved crimes stretching across state lines. The Harper family watched these developments with a mix of hope and dread. Could this finally be the answer they had waited for? Or was it just another dead end in a case defined by frustration and heartbreak? Evelyn, now frail but still determined, spoke to reporters with quiet strength. "We just want the truth. We want to know what happened to our daughter, and we want whoever is responsible to be held accountable." The investigation into Charles Bennett was painstaking. Detectives tracked his movements, interviewed former colleagues, and searched for any connection to the missing women. They found circumstantial evidence, a receipt here, a witness statement there, but nothing concrete. Bennett's DNA did not match the partial profile from Jessica's earring, and he continued to deny any involvement, despite the lack of definitive proof. The task force refused to give up. They expanded their search, looking for other possible suspects, other overlooked clues. They re-examined the blue pickup truck, the strange customer at the diner, the hang-up calls Jessica had received. Each lead was pursued to its end, each theory tested and retested. In the end, the case remained stubbornly unsolved. The evidence was tantalizing but incomplete, the suspects intriguing but unproven. For every question answered, 2 more emerged. Yet, in the face of uncertainty, the Harper family and the people of Willow Creek refused to let Jessica's memory fade. Every year, on the anniversary of her disappearance, the town gathered in the square to light candles and share stories. They spoke of Jessica's kindness, her laughter, her dreams. They remembered the girl who had touched so many lives, and they renewed their vow to seek the truth, no matter how long it took. The case of Jessica Harper is more than just an unsolved mystery. It is a story of love and loss, of hope and heartbreak, of a community united by tragedy and determined to find answers. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the search for truth and justice endures. As the sun sits over Willow Creek, the question remains, what happened to Jessica Harper? Who holds the key to the mystery that has haunted this town for 30 years? And will the day ever come when the truth is finally revealed? Until that day, the case refuses to die. And so does the hope that one day, justice will be served. But as the years continue to slip by, the question lingers in every corner of Willow Creek. Is the answer still out there, waiting to be found? Somewhere, someone knows what happened to Jessica Harper on that warm summer night. Maybe it's a memory buried deep, a secret never spoken, or a piece of evidence overlooked for decades. For the Harper family, and for everyone who has followed this case, hope is not just a feeling, it's a choice. A choice to keep searching, to keep asking, to keep believing that the truth will one day come to light. If you have any information about the disappearance of Jessica Harper, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, please contact the Willow Creek Police Department or your local authorities. Sometimes, the smallest detail can be the missing piece that finally brings a family peace. Jessica's story is a reminder that behind every headline, every cold case, there are real people, families who never stop waiting, friends who never stop wondering, and communities forever changed. The case that refuses to die is more than a mystery. It's a call for all of us to stay vigilant, to care for one another, and to never let the forgotten be truly forgotten. Thank you for watching. If you found this case compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories that matter. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, justice may be delayed, but it is never out of reach. The community, too, was drawn back into the mystery. Old rumors resurfaced, and new theories spread like wildfire on social media. Some believed Jessica had been taken by someone she knew, perhaps a jealous ex-boyfriend or a trusted family friend. Others insisted it was the work of a stranger, a drifter passing through town. A few even speculated about a serial predator, linking Jessica's case to other unsolved disappearances in the region. Chief Ramirez understood the power of public interest. She held a press conference, urging anyone with information to contact the police. No detail is too small, she said. After 30 years, we owe it to Jessica and her family to find the truth. The police struck a chord, and the tip line lit up with calls. Most were dead,